Born the eldest son of the prestigious Gadu family, the boy was deemed a failure because the essential sword of a swordsman never manifested in him. Onlookers whispered their pity for his family, gossiping about his unfortunate state. He overheard them call him a defective product who couldn't even use magic. All he ever wanted was to be acknowledged. His father's words echoed in his memory, calling him an incompetent fool and the shame of the Gadu family. He recalls that no matter how much he tried to raise his voice, his father never stopped beating him. He felt that nobody in this place would ever acknowledge him. His mother, lying ill, called him Tauma and told him he was a strong child. She wanted him to know that he was her pride. But Tauma could only think to himself that he was not strong at all. Kneeling by her bedside, he silently asked his mother to forgive her son who was born a failure. For years his training has been the same: swing it straight up, then swing it straight down. Gadu Tauma finds that spending time here gives him peace. When it's time for food, he knows that in the Gadu family, no meals are prepared for failures. His only sustenance is Hyarogan, traditional food pills. Though they provide nutrients, the taste is extremely bad. At first he cried, but now he doesn't even feel the taste. His peace is shattered when a voice suddenly calls out, "Hey, you failure." His younger brother, Gadu Tauji, appears with his friends and asks who gave Tauma permission to use the training grounds. Tauma is startled and can only stammer his brother's name. Tauji strikes him hard, demanding to be called Master Tauji. As Tauma collapses, Tauji calls him a loser. He feigns concern, asking if he hit him too hard, while his friends mock Tauma's inability to handle it. Tauma grits his teeth, thinking about how inconvenient it is not to be able to use magic. He knows it's a power that resides in every being, circulating through the body to increase the user's own. It seems even he has magic, but for some reason it doesn't circulate through his body. Tauji mocks Tauma's efforts, calling his daily training with a stick useless. He sneers that nothing has changed, comparing Tauma to a baby since magic only fails to flow in them. Tauma remains silent, knowing his situation is indeed like that of a baby. His silence infuriates Tauji, who demands to know if he's being ignored. Tauma realizes he has magic, but a body that doesn't allow him to use it. Tauji makes a childish gesture at him. Tauji and his friends erupt in laughter, mocking how scared Tauma looks. Therefore, in this entire world, he believes he is the weakest person to exist. Tauma apologizes if his words offended them and says he will leave. Tauji smirks, his interest piqued. He stops Tauma, feigning an apology for laughing and saying he'll personally show him how good he is. Tauma quietly refuses, sensing the danger. Tauji tells him to take a good look, explaining that there are people called swordsmen. Tauma listens, knowing that every swordsman has a unique power and a weapon specific to them. Tauji declares that this power, the burning Yang Tiger, is the only important power needed in the land of the sun. With a manic grin, Tauji unleashes his power, a weapon called a life sword. He proudly declares that this is his life sword, Yauko. Tauji goads Tauma to draw his own life sword. He boasts that his sword burns down anything it cuts. The realization dawns on Tauji, and he laughs, asking if Tauma doesn't even have a life sword. Tauma reflects that no matter how much he wishes for this power, he cannot attain it. To awaken one's life sword, the Imperial King gives 3 opportunities at ages 3, 5, and 7. This sacred event is known as the Royal Election of Blessing. Anyone who lives in the land of the sun can participate, but life swords are deeply connected through bloodline. Hence, it's more common to see children from swordsmen families manifest life swords. Tauma comes from a family of swordsmen, and the best one at that. His father, Gadu Taujin, is the head of the Gadu family and one of the 7 great heavenly saints who wears the purple rank robe. Because of his prestigious lineage, no one ever doubted that he would be able to manifest his life sword. But the ceremony did not go as expected. As he bowed with the other children, his fate was sealed. While the other children successfully manifested their swords, his life sword did not manifest. He remembers his father approaching him, and the look of pure, unadulterated rage on his face. Tauma wishes his brother would give him a break. Tauji wonders how their prestigious family must feel, having stood at the top with pride for so long, only to have an incompetent failure born into it. He claims he can't help but feel embarrassed for Tauma. Tauma thinks to himself that he never asked to be born into this family. Tauji's cruelty deepens as he insults their mother, calling her incompetent just like Tauma. He adds that she had a frail body from the start. He declares that the offspring of a failure is obviously a failure too. This is the last straw for Tauma, who snarls, "Don't you dare." Consumed by rage, Tauma screams at Taoji not to speak ill of his mother and lunges forward. Taoji sidesteps the clumsy attack with ease, casually asking why he's getting so heated over the truth. Taoji adds another cruel jab, claiming their father said their mother's face was the only good thing about her. The words strike Tauma like a physical blow. Taoji swings his life sword, striking Tauma down. Taoji notes that it has been 3 years since Tauma started training. He swung that sword every day without taking a single break. Tears stream down Tauma's face. Taoji sneers that at the end of the day, all of his hard work was for nothing. As Taoji and his friends leave, he remarks that it's good to wake up early. He says he got plenty of exercise thanks to Tauma's previous attempt, which made him look like a clown. He muses that he'll need to choose a proper partner so he doesn't end up like his father. He clenches his fist, thinking that being the head of the family won't be an easy task. Taoji tells the defeated Tauma that his entire life's worth of practice isn't even equivalent to a single day's worth of his own. Lying on the floor, Tauma sobs. All he ever wanted was to be acknowledged. As he weeps, the day of sacrifice to offer to Kaiokuma Island has finally arrived. High above the ocean, a mysterious old man surveys a strange island below, wondering what it could be. He senses an incredibly old and powerful barrier surrounding the island, erected to prevent outside intrusion. He deduces its simple but effective principle: only those of a specific lineage may pass through. Though he's curious to investigate it further, he notes that at least nothing appears to be sealed within. The man realizes the island is teeming with powerful monsters, making any investigation difficult. He laments not having traveled the world sooner. He spots a lone figure on the ground below, swarmed by countless creatures. As the monsters close in, the boy Tauma lets out a defiant roar. The old man watches with keen interest, a smile playing on his lips. An incredible surge of life force erupts from Tauma, creating a massive explosion. The old man looks on, intrigued by the display. Tauma stands battered but defiant. Tauma awakens in a cave, groaning. The old man greets him, asking how his body feels. As Tauma checks himself, the memories of the attack rush back to him in a panic. Realizing he was saved, Tauma bows deeply, thanking the old master profusely. Tauma then anxiously asks about the monsters, the Darrow. The old man casually informs him that he completely obliterated them, leaving Tauma utterly stunned. Tauma is shocked to find that not only have his wounds vanished, but the fatal brand on his chest is gone as well. His savior simply chuckles, remarking that while it's been a while since he used healing magic, his skills are still sharp. Tauma struggles to comprehend how one person could defeat such a massive horde, knowing that a swarm of Darrow is a significant threat. He knows that reaching this island, Gokumajima, requires at least purple rank strength. Yet the old master's presence is so faint, it's almost unnoticeable, a contradiction to his immense power. Realizing there's only one explanation, Tauma tentatively asks if the old man is a demigod. The old man, who reveals his name is Tenrin, is surprised Tauma knows of demigods, and explains they are rare humans who have touched the realm of the gods. Tauma is overwhelmed, having never imagined he'd be saved by such a being, but Tenrin tells him not to be so formal. Tenrin dismisses demigods as just a gathering of weirdos. He then turns the focus back to the boy. Tenrin asks what Tauma was doing on an island like this. Hesitantly, Tauma begins to tell his story. He had intended to be brief, but ended up recounting his entire life leading up to that point. Overcome with emotion, Tauma apologizes for rambling. Tenrin listens patiently, understanding the full scope of the boy's tragedy. He realizes the brand on Tauma's body was a cruel tracking and fatal strike technique meant to ensure his death. Tenrin muses that by blowing away the cursed technique, he likely made those who cast it believe Tauma had died. He then asks the boy what he will do now. Tenrin even offers to take him back to his hometown. Tauma looks down, knowing he has no place to return to, and that he would only be treated worse than before. Tauma feels hopeless, believing that with a body that can't use magic, it doesn't matter where he goes. Tenrin gently places a hand on his head, asking again what he truly wants to do. After a moment of reflection, Tauma looks up with renewed determination and declares that he wants to live. Tauma clarifies that he wants to live in a way that would make his mother proud. Tenrin's kind words in response feel like his mother's praise. The old man smiles and asks for the boy's name. Tauma introduces himself as Godo Toma. Pleased with the boy's answer, Tenrin extends a hand to the stunned Tauma. He offers him a new path, inviting the boy to become his disciple. Tenrin explains that long ago, the first emperor defeated a demon, which became a vengeful spirit that brought disaster to the land of the sun. To calm the spirit's wrath, a sacrifice marked by the demons was offered every 10 years. Tauma internalizes this, realizing he was thrown away on this forbidden demon island. He remembered his desperate belief that his family would never abandon him. He kept believing that someday they would finally accept him. That hope crumbles, and the memory of his anguish echoes as a desperate scream. He knew that if he stopped believing in his family, his heart wouldn't be able to take it. As the screams tear from his throat, he collapses to the ground. The full weight of his abandonment crashes down on him, and he weeps uncontrollably. He questioned if it was wrong to seek a place to belong or arrogant to wish for acceptance. He wondered if someone would have accepted him if he'd been born into a normal family. As he questions everything, the monstrous inhabitants of the island begin to gather. Overwhelmed, he can only whisper that he doesn't know the answer. A horde of demons swarms toward him from all sides. With all hope lost, Tauma breaks into an empty, hysterical laugh, muttering that he no longer knows anything. The demons shriek as they attack. They descend upon the small, kneeling boy. Emotionally and physically spent, Tauma decides he has had enough. He closes his eyes, ready to let it all end and go to his mother. A memory of his mother surfaces, her hand holding his. She wept, calling his name and apologizing, blaming herself for his fate. That memory sparks a change, and Tauma instinctively dodges an attack. Panting, he finds himself surrounded again, but his mindset has shifted. With wide, determined eyes, he realizes one thing: he can't die. He remembered how his mother always protected him. She would always apologize for giving birth to him with such a body. Tauma screams in defiance. His mother did nothing wrong. He declares that being her child is his greatest pride, no matter how others despise him. Grabbing a makeshift weapon, he vows to survive until the very end. He resolves to survive so that his mother can be proud of him, to prove her worth. With newfound purpose, he screams at the demons to get out of his way and attacks. The demons shriek as he cuts through them. He weaves through the horde, his makeshift weapon a blur. His face is a mask of pure, desperate determination. He smashes a demon's face in, letting out a battle cry. He is a whirlwind of motion, fending off attacks from all sides. He leaps onto a demon, driving his weapon into it with savage force. He is overwhelmed, with demons clinging to him and tearing at him. Despite his wounds, his gaze remains unbroken. Though on the brink of death, Tauma reaches forward, vowing that he will not die. From above, Tenrin observes the scene. He laughs, remarking on the boy's incredible life force. Tauma glares up defiantly, even as his strength fails. Tenrin reaches out a hand, his power gathering to intervene. The remaining demons snarl, unaware of the power about to be unleashed. Tenrin unleashes a devastating attack upon the swarm of demons. In a flash of light, Tenrin's power obliterates the entire horde. The demons are completely annihilated. Having dealt with the monsters, Tenrin turns his attention to the boy. Tenrin lands softly near Tauma's unconscious body. He reflects that he managed to save him, but is unsure what to do next. He looks down at Tauma, pondering whether this encounter is a matter of good fortune or bad. Floating high above, Tenrin surveys the strange land mass below him with a thoughtful expression, pondering the nature of this mysterious island. He senses a powerful and ancient barrier surrounding a narrow part of the island. Tenrin deduces its strength comes from its simplicity. It is designed to only allow those of a specific lineage to pass. He finds it curious that nothing seems to be sealed within, making him want to investigate further. The island is teeming with powerful monsters, making any investigation difficult. Tenrin laments not having traveled the world sooner. His thoughts are interrupted by a startling sight. Below, a lone boy is facing a massive horde of creatures. The boy Tauma fights desperately against the overwhelming odds. Tenrin watches from above, a curious chuckle escaping his lips as he observes the scene. Tenrin is struck by the boy's tremendous life force, unleashing a powerful blast that obliterates the monsters in an instant. The boy stands battered but defiant after the ordeal. Tauma groans as he awakens, disoriented. Tenrin greets him by the campfire, asking how he feels. The question brings a flood of memories back, and Tauma jolts in alarm, recalling the fight for his life. Overcome with gratitude, Tauma bows deeply, thanking the old master for saving him. When Tauma frantically asks about the monsters, Tenrin calmly replies that he obliterated them without a trace, leaving the boy stunned. Tauma is shocked to find that not only have his wounds healed, but the brand on his chest has also vanished completely. Tenrin proudly states that although it has been a while since he used healing magic, his skills are still sharp. Tauma reels, trying to comprehend the old man's power, knowing the horde of Darrow he faced was incredibly dangerous. He knows that reaching this island requires immense strength, yet the old master's presence is unnervingly faint. Realizing there's only one explanation for this phenomenon, Tauma looks at him and asks directly if he is a demigod. Amused, Tenrin confirms he is a demigod, explaining they are rare beings who have stepped into the realm of the gods. As Tauma bows again in disbelief, Tenrin waves it off. He calls demigods a gathering of weirdos before turning his attention back to the boy. Tenrin asks what a boy like him was doing on an island like this. Hesitantly, Tauma begins to explain. He recounts the story of his life, a tale he had intended to keep brief but found himself pouring out in full detail. Overwhelmed by his own story, Tauma breaks down in tears and apologizes. Tenrin listens patiently. He understands now why a strange technique had been engraved on the boy's body. It was a tracking and fatal strike curse cast to ensure his death. Tenrin calls it a messed-up story and confirms he blew away the curse along with everything else. He then asks Tauma what he will do now. Tauma knows he can't go home, there is no place for him there, and he would only be treated worse than before. Feeling hopeless, Tauma says that with a body unable to use magic, it doesn't matter where he goes. Tenrin places a hand on his head, pressing for an answer about what he truly wants. After a moment of clarity, Tauma looks up and declares with conviction that he wants to live. Tauma clarifies that he wants to live a life that would make his mother proud. Touched by the boy's resolve, Tenrin smiles gently. The warmth of Tenrin's hand reminds Tauma of his mother's praise. Tenrin then asks for his name. The boy introduces himself as Toma Godo. Tenrin considers this for a moment, then with a wide, eager smile, he extends a hand to the stunned boy and tells Toma to become his disciple. A ferocious, bare-chested warrior with wild hair and horns clashes with a monstrous, multi-armed demon. Their battle is a storm of strikes and explosions, tearing the landscape apart. The scene pulls back, revealing the two combatants locked in an aerial struggle. Below, a bewildered Tauma watches the cataclysmic event unfold, questioning what is happening before his very eyes. Tauma realizes this isn't his master fighting, but someone else who has intercepted the demon. He recognizes the battle, a confrontation known to anyone from the Sun Country. He recalls the picture stories of his childhood. Tauma had a vague suspicion, but the warrior was a figure of myth. As the warrior relentlessly attacks the demon, Tauma's certainty grows. He recalls the legend of a single sword stroke so powerful it was said to be capable of felling even gods. Tauma finally puts a name to the legendary figure, Yoryu Tauten, the founding emperor of the Sun Country. The emperor raises his blade for a final strike, declaring that it is over. With a devastating downward slash, the emperor's sword cleaves the demon in two. The monster cries out as its body disintegrates. The victorious warrior stands alone in the rain. Tauma understands that he is witnessing a memory of this place, engraved like a final gift. Legend says the founding emperor defeated a powerful demon on this island and sealed its vengeful spirit. To appease its wrath, sacrifices were offered every decade. But all that truly remained was the emperor's divine thought. The truth dawns on him. The sacrifices to Extreme Demon Island were originally a trial from the emperor, a way to pass down power. Over the years, the trial was twisted into a convenient form of exile. Tauma realizes this divine thought must have waited until his turn. As this thought occurs, he cries out in alarm as his own body begins to dissolve. Confused, Tauma wonders if he is returning to his physical form. As the emperor's spirit turns to leave, Tauma, now solidifying, calls out to his majesty. With newfound resolve, he declares that he, Gadu Tauma, has surely received his majesty's power. As the vision of the emperor fades, Tauma feels the power settling within him. The emperor's voice echoes in his mind, confirming that he has received it. Just as the memory of the first emperor's final battle vanished, a new power took hold at the core of Kyokumijima. The heart of the island began to collapse. Simultaneously, within the kingdom of Hino, a change was taking place. A new celestial reading was cast, heralding a great shift. A rift opens, swallowing the sky, light and even time, heralding the descent of the true king. The power settles into Talma, his form cloaked in shadow and energy. He gasps as the immense force floods his being. Talma lets out a primal scream as agony courses through him. He realizes with horror that his magic channels are being forced open all at once. He wonders if this excruciating pain is the true nature of the power he inherited. The pain triggers a memory of his childhood, when a 10-year-old Talma trained with his master, the Ajin demigod Tenrin. Tenrin explained that to harness magic efficiently, one needs a magic form, a kata. Tenrin asked the young Talma if he noticed how different this was from normal magic control. He demonstrated a complex hand sign, exclaiming how difficult it is to mimic. He told a struggling Talma that it's the same with magic forms, it's hard to perform signs one isn't used to. A kata, he elaborated, is imprinted into the body's magical channels through repetition, becoming stronger as more magic flows through it. Tenrin explained that every technique has its own form, which is normally refined slowly over time. However, he offered a shortcut, to forcibly inject magic and transfer the kata directly, which shocked the young Talma. Talma, connecting this memory to his current agony, realized this was the process Tenrin described. His master confirmed it. The young Talma vehemently refused, opting for the slow and steady way, a choice Tenrin calmly accepted as better. Back in the present, Talma collapses, understanding that this agonizing process was the fun surprise the first emperor had mentioned. He's relieved that he learned healing techniques from his master. He uses them to soothe his ravaged body, a faint glow emanating from his hand. As he recovers, Talma feels his body adapting to the kata far better than when he was a spirit, realizing the transmission of sword and soul is complete. He recalls the memory of the first emperor, realizing the legendary warrior moved with even greater speed and precision, his movements refined and built on fundamentals. Talma concludes in shock that the emperor must have been holding back during their spiritual battle so he could keep up. The first emperor's divine descent dual blade style was a technique said to bring down gods with a single slash. What was once a mere legend to Talma is now a believable reality after witnessing the memory. He acknowledges that even with the same technique, he is nowhere near reaching his master's level yet. He tightens his grip on his sword, noting it's the same feeling he has with the Hatenkan. Talma reflects on the strength given to him by his two masters, the first emperor and Tenrin. He steels his resolve, knowing that since he has inherited their power, all that remains is to master it. A sudden, thunderous sound interrupts his thoughts. Startled, he looks around, wondering what could be making that noise. Looking around at the trembling landscape, Talma realizes the entire island is starting to shake. He initially dismisses the noise as a mountain collapse, but then his senses pick up a distinct killing aura. The ground shakes violently. He turns towards the source of the presence. He knows without a doubt that monsters are nearby. A purple-class demon, a Wenyudo, charges toward him. The demon lets out a ferocious roar as it closes in. Talma braces himself, unsurprised by its appearance. The demon's charge is so powerful it kicks up debris and shatters the ground. Talma leaps to meet its attack head-on. He knows that any regular weapon would be smashed to pieces by such a forceful charge. The demon's wheel-like body collides with Talma's blade. But his weapon is different. Every famous sword or Meito carries enormous latent power. The Meito he now wields, the imperial blade once held by the first emperor, has a unique ability. As his sword meets the demon's charge, Talma realizes the blade's true power, it never breaks. He thinks to himself that the blade's ability is surprisingly plain. For the first emperor's legendary weapon, it's a simple power. But at the same time, it makes perfect sense. The emperor's descending guard swordsmanship is so overwhelmingly powerful that it requires an unbreakable blade. Any lesser Meito would shatter from the strain of the techniques. After the exertion, Talma stumbles, finding it tough to control the flow of magic and admitting he's still too unstable for real combat. He acknowledges that if one can wield this sword style, then being unbreakable is the only ability a sword would ever need. Talma muses that while he's heard of the royal blade, he's never heard of the imperial blade. He knew the royal blade could manifest a Meito, but this imperial blade simply seems to be unbreakable. Even so, for him, this is like a dream come true. Possessing such a weapon was something that was always beyond his reach, no matter how much he wished for it. He feels he can't just keep receiving gifts forever. With renewed determination, Talma declares that from now on, he will carve proof of his master's lives into the world. He knows he has to repay the debt he owes his teachers. He believes that with the strength he now possesses, Escaping the island and crossing the sea should be easy. But as he thinks of leaving, he hesitates, admitting to himself that he is scared of the outside world. Just thinking about it makes his legs freeze. He finds himself unable to take that final step off the island. Suddenly, he looks up confused. He senses something approaching rapidly through the trees. It's not the presence of a demon, but something else entirely. A young woman bursts through the foliage, stopping abruptly in front of him, and he recoils in surprise. Both are shocked to see another person, exclaiming in unison their disbelief at finding another human. The woman aggressively tells him not to move. She demands to know who he is, but Tauma is completely bewildered, realizing he cannot understand a single word she is saying. Near the coast of Sun Country, a lone ship is tossed on stormy seas. On board, a woman named Reese introduces herself as an adventurer, recounting the events that led her to this point. Her flashback begins. She was on a guild request, escorting a merchant ship bound for Sun Country when they were attacked by demons. A menacing, hooded figure appeared, marking the A-rank adventurer for her struggles. The demon, noting she was alone, prepared to attack. Reese demanded to know why she was being targeted. He revealed that her clan was simply an obstacle to his goals. He unleashed a dark energy blast. She hastily threw up a shield to defend herself. The shield held, but Reese realized her magic was failing. The mist emanating from the demon was interfering with her power. He taunted her, asking if she truly believed she could win. With her options dwindling, Reese knew she had to take a gamble. With a defiant shout, she refused to be underestimated. She leaped from the ship into the raging ocean below. The demon watched her fall, dismissing her actions as foolish. He believed a jump into the monster-infested currents meant certain death, but even as she plunged into the depths, Reese was filled with a single, unyielding thought: she would survive. Somehow, she washed ashore on a strange island. Battered and weak, she coughed up seawater, her body aching. Her thoughts burned with anger as she swore she would never forgive the demon who had forced her hand. Her magic was slowly returning. However, she had used most of her power just to survive the treacherous currents. Fortunately, her magic pack was safe. She considered using the portable magic ship inside, but knew crossing these dangerous seas in a small vessel was suicide. First, she needed to figure out where she was. As she ventured inland, she was instead greeted by screeching monsters. To her horror, the entire island seemed to be crawling with them. Her terrible luck continued as a blue-rank demon, a triangle bear, blocked her path. In her weakened state, she knew she couldn't handle such a creature. The bear lunged. Mustering what little strength she had, Reese dodged and cast a lightning rope spell, attempting to bind the beast. The bear roared and easily broke free from her spell. Reese watched in dismay. She was confused, wondering what could have scared it off. But then, instead of attacking again, it turned and fled in terror. The answer was immediately apparent, and far worse than she could have imagined. Looming before her was a purple-rank demon, a monstrous ox-ogre, the true predator of this part of the island. Just as the massive ox-ogre closed in, it was obliterated in a single devastating strike. The mysterious man who had appeared from nowhere stood over the defeated beast. As Liz watched in stunned silence, a horrifying realization began to dawn on her. She recognized tales of this place. It was an ecosystem teeming with monsters. It was a land of exile from which no one was said to return alive. She had washed ashore on demonic Extreme Island, the land of the sun's most dangerous zone. Fleeing in terror, Liz had been filled with a desperate resolve not to die on the island. Crying out for help, she stumbled forward. Her desperate plea was answered as she ran directly into the strange man. She was shocked to see another human in such a place. Her desperation quickly turned to suspicion, and she commanded him not to move. She demanded to know who he was, but he only stared back in silence. The man found the situation troubling. He realized she could not understand his words. Liz misinterpreted his silence, thinking he was playing dumb. As she prepared to press him further, their standoff was interrupted by the returning triangle bear. Liz gasped as the monster appeared. The beast roared and lunged toward them. Bracing herself, she prepared to unleash an attack of her own. Liz stared in absolute shock. But before she could act, the man moved, and in an instant the enormous monster was defeated. She couldn't believe the beast was taken down so effortlessly. Liz wondered if he was from the land of the sun, but she was more concerned about his power, to be so strong and yet have no presence at all. She, an A-rank adventurer, couldn't sense him in the slightest. He tried to reassure her that she was safe. The man, realizing the language barrier was the problem, considered what to do next. He produced a magical item, a ring of language. He slipped the ring on his finger, hoping it would solve their communication issue. Suddenly, he could understand her frantic questions. Apologizing for the confusion, he introduced himself as Gadu Tauma and confirmed that they were on demonic Extreme Island. The island's name confirmed Liza's fears. She recognized the name Gadu as a noble family from the land of the sun. He humbly insisted his connection to the family meant nothing and asked her to just call him Tauma. Though still wary, Liza judged him to be non-hostile. She hesitantly thanked him for saving her life. Tauma told her to drop the formal speech, and she awkwardly agreed. He then asked who she was, and she apologized for not introducing herself sooner. Taking a breath, she formally introduced herself as Liza, an A-rank adventurer from the Kingdom of Ulst. Liza is baffled when Tauma doesn't recognize her homeland, the Kingdom of Ulst. He seems completely unaware of what she is talking about. Her expression hardens with suspicion as she looks at him. She asks him a critical question: how long has he been on this island? Tauma calmly replies that he has been there for about 7 years. The answer stuns Liza, 7 years isolated on such a dangerous island. It suddenly makes sense to her why he is so out of touch with the world. She explains that trade between the Kingdom of Ulst and the Sun Country only began a few years ago, a fact Tauma takes in with curiosity. As Tauma processes this new information about his homeland, he notices Liza seems unwell. She suddenly sways, looking faint. Noticing her distress, Tauma quickly moves to support her as she stumbles. Concerned for Liza, Tauma had faced down one of the island's bizarre demons, a creature he casually calls a triangle bear. Liza is terrified by the beast, wondering what it is, but Tauma admits he does not know much either. He calmly remarks that its gallbladder is great for nourishment. Tauma presents Liza with his master's secret nourishing medicine, urging her to drink it. She recoils in horror, refusing to drink the grotesque, still-moving concoction while Tauma guarantees its effectiveness. Understanding her reaction, Tauma decides not to let it go to waste and prepares to drink it himself. Liza apologizes, admitting it's too much for her. Liza, though still unsettled, quietly thanks him for going to such lengths for her. He sheepishly admits he got overexcited about having his first guest in ages and that the medicine might be too much for a first-timer. Liza watches aghast as Tauma drinks the entire bowl without hesitation. Changing the subject, he asks about her plans for getting off the island, and she confirms she wants to go back. But Liza's expression darkens as she explains the grim reality. Extreme Demon Island is surrounded by currents so fierce that escape is deemed impossible. Liza clarifies that she could go home if only she could get out of the island's waters. She explains that she possesses a portable magic ship and knows the direction of her country. However, she knows it's still impossible to cross a sea teeming with monsters in such a small vessel. Sighing in defeat, she laments not having a teleportation scroll, seeing no viable way out. Tauma listens intently, a thoughtful look on his face. As Liza resigns herself to her fate, Tauma calls out to her. With unwavering confidence, he makes a startling declaration: he will take her there himself. Liza is left completely stunned, unable to process his extraordinary offer. Tauma is amazed by the strange vessel, which he identifies as a magic ship. Reese explains that the ship uses magical power for propulsion and that she brought it from her magic pack along with other supplies. Tauma grows concerned, asking if the small boat is truly safe. Reese admits the magic ship is meant for emergencies and is vulnerable to waves and wind. She is certain it cannot withstand the raging currents surrounding the island, where monsters also lurk. She adds that the waters near the Sun Country are also known for their particularly rough currents. As Tauma questions her plan, Reese simply tells him not to worry. Straining with effort, Reese prepares to launch the boat while Tauma smiles encouragingly. With a determined shout, Reese decides to risk it all. The boat launches forward at an incredible speed, cutting through the rough sea. Tauma is amazed by the vessel's speed, though it rocks quite a bit. He reflects that while she was initially hesitant, she is now gambling everything, revealing a surprisingly bold personality. Reese spots a massive whirlpool directly in their path. She panics, screaming that they are going to sink. Tauma calmly tells Reese not to worry, promising he will not let anything happen. He then announces his departure and casually steps off the boat, leaving Reese completely bewildered. With a powerful sky-breaking kick, Tauma launches himself high into the air from the water's surface. Reese watches in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend how he is leaping through the air. He hangs suspended in the sky above the turbulent sea. Talma recalls how 7 years ago, all he could do was stare at these violent currents. He clenches his fist, knowing that now things are different. With intense focus, he prepares to unleash the essence of his martial art, the Supreme Heaven Fist. The Supreme Heaven Fist works by striking the endpoint that exists in all things, forcibly leading them to their end. However, he knows that in a fluid like the sea, there are countless endpoints, and striking just one will not stop the waves. With newfound resolve, he decides he will strike them all simultaneously. He will adapt his technique, changing it from a fist to an open palm. A massive shockwave radiates outward from him, striking the entire surface of the churning ocean at once. He unleashes a variation of his technique that he just thought of in this moment. The turbulent waves are instantly suppressed. All at once, the raging sea becomes eerily calm. Talma lands gracefully on the bow of the boat, his new technique, the Supreme Heaven Palm, having rendered the ocean completely still. Rhys looks out in utter disbelief, unable to believe what she is seeing. The once raging waves have completely vanished. As they drift away from the island, the sea remains perfectly calm. Looking back at the island they've left behind, Rhys sincerely thanks Talma for everything. Talma turns to her with a bright smile and announces their next move, heading to her country. Rhys can only respond with stunned disbelief. As they leave the island behind, Talma turns to his master Rhys. He expresses his own desire to see the world. With a final glance at the home he's leaving, he announces his departure. Far away in a grand desolate hall, a glowing orb questions a hooded figure. The orb demands to know if the descendant of Elementia was killed. The man smirks, confidently reporting that she is certainly dead, having thrown herself into the dangerous waters of the Sun Country. The entity's voice booms with rage, questioning why she was not killed directly. It berates the subordinate for his calmness, reminding him of the immense threat the girl poses and his failure to confirm her death. Terrified, the man can only offer a deep apology. New orders are issued. The man is to monitor the port of Restral to ensure the girl does not return. He nervously asks for how long he must watch. The entity commands him to wait until her death is confirmed. The entity decides to send another agent to the Sun Country, the only other place she could have washed ashore. The entity gives a final, chilling command. If by any chance the daughter of Elementia is still alive, the subordinate must succeed. He must ensure he kills her the next time. Meanwhile, on the open sea, Rhys's terrified screams fill the air. Their tiny boat is attacked by a monstrous A-rank marine snake rising from the depths. As Rhys cries out his name in panic, Talma leaps into action. He calmly tells her to leave it to him. He launches himself towards the beast, striking it down with a single powerful blow. Talma lands back on the boat as Rhys stares in disbelief, muttering that he took down an A-rank monster in one hit. When Talma asks what A-rank means, she dismisses it. Several days later, their journey continues, with Talma casually asking about food beside the carcass of their defeated foe. Whenever they faced rough waves, Talma calmed them with his Supreme Heaven Palm. When monsters appeared, he dispatched them with his Supreme Heaven Fist. Thanks to him, their voyage has been remarkably smooth and blessed with good weather. After 4 days of sailing, Rhys announces they should soon reach the port town of Restral in the Kingdom of Ulst. She sighs, longing for a proper bath after their long journey. She is flustered when Talma innocently offers to produce water for her, shouting that she can't possibly bathe with him around. Talma laments making her angry again, feeling he lacks the ability to be considerate of others. Rhys sighs, admitting she isn't truly angry. She simply tells him to be more careful. Changing the subject, she asks what he plans to do once they reach Restral. Talma is stunned, realizing he hadn't thought about it at all, much to Rhys's disbelief. Talma recalls his mission, to master and pass down his master's techniques, but he realizes he never considered how he would find students after leaving the island. As Rhys asks what's wrong, a far more practical problem dawns on him. He shouts in panic that he has no money, a concept that leaves Rhys equally shocked. Rhys notes Talma's surprise about his lack of money. She insists on covering his expenses as thanks for rescuing her from Extreme Demon Island, adding that she earns good money. Though he feels it's too much, Talma accepts her offer. He reflects that he really can't refuse Rhys. Talma is glad that Rhys was the first person he met in this new world. Suddenly, Rhys has an idea and suggests that Talma become an adventurer. Talma recalls that He asks what an adventurer does, and Reese tells him he can easily become one by visiting the town's adventurer guild. She explains that their work involves everything from basic errands to defeating monsters and completing requests posted on the guild's bulletin board. Reese elaborates that anyone can become one, regardless of background, and your earnings depend on your abilities. Tauma considers this, realizing that being able to move freely and earn money would be helpful. He grows curious and asks Reese why she became an adventurer and if she enjoys it. She quietly confirms that she does. Reese confesses that while there was a time she longed to see the world, she didn't particularly want to become an adventurer. She simply says that she didn't have many other options. Tauma takes in her somber response. He apologizes for asking such a personal question, but Reese reassures him that it's fine. She then changes the subject, warning Tauma that he will stand out in Restral because he is from the Sun Country. Confused, Tauma asks why, believing that the nations were trading partners. Reese explains that, on the contrary, there are hardly any people from the Sun Country in this region. She doesn't know the details, but it appears the Sun Country has imposed travel restrictions, making it difficult to enter. Tauma wonders why his country would implement such a policy. But then, a more important thought occurs to him. He tells Reese he understands and has a request for her. He asks that from now on she treat him as just Tauma. Reese is taken aback, asking if he wants to hide his family name, Gadu. Tauma confirms her suspicion, admitting to himself that he couldn't bring himself to abandon the Gadu name until now. He always thought that discarding it would mean his connection to his father and family would disappear completely. He acknowledges that the connection to his family had already ceased to exist long ago. But now he is done with being weak and has a mission to pass down his master's techniques. With the travel restrictions, a person from the Sun Country will stand out. If merchants were to report that Gadu, the sacrifice, is still alive, it would cause trouble. He resolves that he can no longer rely on his family name and sees this as his chance to abandon it for good. Reese silently processes his request. She looks at him with understanding and says that it seems he has his reasons, so she agrees. With a kind smile, she declares that from now on he is just Tauma. Tauma smiles back, thanking her for her understanding. Suddenly, Reese excitedly points, telling him to look behind him. As Tauma turns, he sees the sprawling port town of Restral on the horizon. His new life with nothing but his fighting skills is about to begin.